morning, Bob.
Morning.
Thank you for having us here today.
My pleasure, I hope.
We're looking forward to hearing your memories and stories of Port Stanley and the heritage of that village.
Although I wasn't born or raised in Port Stanley, I moved to Port Stanley from Jamestown Valley, not too far from Port Stanley, in probably about 1959, 1960. My parents had already moved there, and my father ran a booth outside of the Store Club. It was a round booth with a big ice cream cone on top, and a number of the teenagers in Port Stanley worked there. Sharon Larmer is one. She always told the story about every time she was dishing out ice cream, somebody would holler, "Bottoms up," because she was bent over the ice cream.
No.
And from there, my father got involved in the Store Club. I think Joe McManus was involved, and then Max Jolliffe somehow got involved in that. And Lloyd Gurr was the manager before my father. And he took that over in, I think, about 60, maybe 1962, 61 or 62. When I moved into Port Stanley, I had been working for a London shoe company, and I opened a store on the main corner in Port Stanley, across from the BA station. And
so not everybody will know where the BA station was.
Well, where the medical center is now was
Right.
a BA station.
So that'd be the northwest corner of Main
Yes,
and
on the very corner.
Bridge.
It was a coffee shop, and that's closed right now. But at one time it was a grocery store. I think it was called Wimpy's Grocery Store. And anyway, I opened a shoe store there since I knew I'd been in the shoe business for quite some time. And that's where I met my wife. She was teaching in Port Stanley at the old school where the post office is now. And one of the teachers that I knew, I had mentioned that I kind of had my eye on her. And anyway, one day she walked across the street from the BA station to my store and bought a pair of shoelaces. And 60 years later, she doesn't have the shoelaces anymore. But anyway, from there...
So you were selling the shoelaces, and then you somehow managed to ask her out in that conversation?
That's right, yeah. And,
Very nice.
So we were married in 1965. Our reception was at the Store Club, but we were married at the United Church in Port Stanley. And we worked at the Store Club, helping on New Year's Eve. Only once. It turned into a fiasco because we were on, anyone who knew the Store Club, there was a landing. You walked up a set of stairs, and there was a landing and another set of stairs up to the dance floor. And people on New Year's would have reserved tables. People would come in and say, "I have a table for 4. Fine, here's your table." Next person came in, "I have a table for 4, but there's 2 more with us. Sorry, all the tables are reserved." Halfway through the evening, we had people coming up, "I have a table of 6. No table. People had taken the tables and put them together with their table of 4. About that time, we had people lined up, and there were no tables for them. I think at that point, Sue and I left. There was the end of our New Year's Eve there. So lots of fun at the Store Club. And I know a lot of people in Port Stanley remember a chap by the name of John Germain, and a lot of people called him Dirty John. He wore a long black coat, and he worked at the Store Club. And of course, at that time, there was no liquor license, so everybody carried their bottle in their coat pocket.
They had to sneak it in? Or?
That's right.
Okay.
You'd sneak it in.
Because they weren't allowed to have
the
it.
next morning, John would go and clear all the tables, but he would take every glass that had booze left in it and pour it into one. So he had quite a mixture. And that's how he spent the rest of his day, I think, drinking.
Whatever concoction that produced
Right.
it.
And he was a patient at psychiatric hospital, an outpatient. And Dad would take him in twice a week to get a shower because he never showered. So most people in Port Stanley Oh, the older people.
He would take him into your house.
No,
Or took it back to the hospital. Okay.
Psychiatric hospital in St. Thomas. After Sue and I were married, I closed the store, and I got a job at the psychiatric hospital and was there for 30 years. The year before I met Sue, I joined the Lions Club. And so I've been in there almost 62 years.
So when you joined it, were your dad was already part of it, eh?
No, he wasn't.
Oh, you got him
My
into
dad,
it. Yeah.
My dad was a member of the Golden K Kiwanis Club, and they met at the Star Club. And they got to a point where all the members were getting older and older and older, and they folded that club in Port Stanley, and a few of the members moved to St. Thomas. But I brought my dad. I sponsored my dad in the Lions Club. And then my mother was in the Lioness Club. Sue became a Lioness member. My son is a Lions member, and two of our grandkids are Leo's members.
And
Is
how
it-
long of? Oh, sorry,
I
Dave.
just was wondering was there a building for the Lions Club?
We
Was
met
there a
at the
clubhouse?
church in
At the
Port
church.
Stanley. We met there since the club was formed. I wasn't a charter member. Max and George Marr, everyone would know them. They had Green Valley Farm, where Kettle Creek golf course is now, and a number of other lines that everyone would, the older people in Port Stanley would remember their names, certainly, but Max and George Marr were charter members.
And how long ago was the Lions Club formed in Port Stanley?
1959. It was chartered in 1960 at the Store Club.
So you were pretty close to being a
Close to it,
founding
yeah.
member,
So,
but not quite.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people come and go, and yeah, a lot of good people, and and a lot of our members are getting older, but we're getting a lot of new, younger members in now. So people are moving into Port Stanley, and some are becoming quite interested. In fact, had a call yesterday from a chap that's interested in joining. It's in Kokomo.
The Lions Club have all the land on the west side of the river. Is that?
Lions Landing, it's called now. Back, oh gosh, it would be probably in about 1961 or 62. McManus had that land and gave it to us.
Oh wow!
Said we could use it for whatever we wanted. And then Max Jolliffe got involved, and he wanted a dock there. So he put a dock in, and we charged him for the dock, and he gave us the money back, type of thing. And then when Penny Tommy became Reeve, Port Stanley, she said that land would forever be green space. It would never be built on. Whether that'll change now with Central Elgin, although Central Elgin's been very good, and we lease that property from them every year. And as a park, it has to be the park area has to be a public park. And a lot of people think that Central Elgin covers the cost of that, but they don't. It's the Lions Club covers the cost of cutting the grass and washrooms and looking after everything. And the money does come from the boat docks.
And you felt like the other year when there were floods, you had a lot of those tables were affected and everything.
We did. I think that was probably the worst flood we've had. It was the ice that pushed all the tables back out of the way. The one thing it didn't bother, I pushed all the tables and we had ice in the pavilion. The one thing it didn't bother was our memorial garden, which seems kind of odd that was the only thing that didn't get damaged, and there was a bench right there, and the ice stopped before it got to that. So yeah, interesting. And so we've had that. We have a contract with Central Elgin that we have to renew every 5 years, and so we do pay lease, pay taxes on it. It's not free, but all the money that we get does go back into the community.
But you've got quite a few boat slips there.
We have, but unfortunately this year there's not a lot of water. We dredged last year. Again, unfortunately, we dredged on our side of the creek. The other marine operators dredged on their side of the creek, but Central Elgin did not dredge the center. So you know what happens, the silt from the center now fills in. The boats that we have in there now have to nose in, where normally they would back in. If they back in now and start their engine, they'd suck all the mud, all the dirt up. So you can literally walk along the edge of the seawall. So the water level is low all over, even after all the rain we've had. Yeah.
So Lions Landing is a big part of Lions Club in Port Stanley, but tell us about some of the other things that Lions Club has done over the years. Maybe you can think back to some
Well, there's
things
a
that
picture
they've done.
here. Here it is. Here, that one. My ugly face on it. But anyway, at the on the beach there was a bowling alley, and that closed up, and we went in and we filled in all the alleys and made it the Lions Den. We held bingos there, and I can remember working in that. And just as a aside, everybody would know Ross Walls, who had the Elgin Electric. All the lights in that were just a cord that hung down with a light bulb in it, and so we were working in there, and they had all the light bulbs out, and Ross Walls, to test to see if they were live or not, would stick his finger and say, "Yeah, that one's good. Nope, that one's dead."
It's one way to do it.
Yeah, just kind of things you remember working in there. And then we had teen dancers in there, and Don McKinnon and I would chaperone those.
So what period are we thinking? 60s, 70s?
Yeah, this all runs together. I'm not sure whether there's a date on here. 1968. 1968. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun, and things changed. We had the roller drone, where it's right on the corner of Edith Cavell and where you go down to Mackey's.
William.
The name of the street. But right on the corner there is a Casware or
Okay.
There's a little shed. That was the booth to rent the roller skates, and the floor was all terrazzo floor and all board fence, and we worked that for a number of years, and then we decided to get out of that, and one of our Lions members, Norwood Meek, whose family was long-term in Port Stanley. His mother and father were very famous. Norwood Meek took that over.
And continued to run it as a
He continued to run
rolling.
on his own,
Okay.
not as part of the Lions Club. We got out of that. We got into fish fry and dance, which was very profitable. I think our first year we made almost $20 profit on the very first one. After that, of course, it became very profitable. All our money goes back into the community from the Lions Club. I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Tell us some of the things you've funded over the years.
Oh gosh. Obviously the hospital, we put a lot of money into the hospital. Lions Foundation, it's an international foundation, so we fund a lot of money there that whenever there's a disaster anywhere in the world, money goes from Lions International Foundation. We help fund Canine Vision Canada for guide dogs, separate from Leader Dog. Leader Dog is in the United States, and these dogs are guide dogs for the blind, for the deaf, for all sorts of problems. We put a lot of money into that. We fund the Leo Club, which are young lions. Hospice, we just paid for a suite, $250,000 at the new hospice. The Lioness are involved in that as well, and we are still putting money into that on a monthly basis. The food bank, usually around $12,000 a year. The Violence Against Women, I think it's called the Valora now in St. Thomas. The YWCA, the YMCA, Fresh Start, just goes on and on. And, the Inn was the Inn out of the cold. It's called the Inn now. All of our money, though, as I started to say, goes back to the community. There's nothing that is spent for administration costs. And that's why, if you're looking where to put your money as a charity donation, you'll see that most of the top ones are Salvation Army, Ronald McDonald House, Lions Clubs International, because none of the money is used for administration.
I'm just trying to imagine, Bob, how many volunteer hours you've put in Port Stanley between Lions Club, United Church. I can't count.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would have no idea. I talked to a woman in St. Thomas a few years ago, and she was at I believe at the Y, and we had a meeting there, and I said to her, I wonder how much money the service clubs, all of the service clubs, save the government, because the government keeps on downloading from federal government to provincial government to municipal government, and then the municipal government downloads it to the service clubs. She said, that'd be a great idea. I wonder if we could take a count. I don't know how you would do that when you look at all the service clubs, the Optimists and Kiwanis and Lions and Rotary, how much money in a year goes back to the community.
You know, it's great that there's people like you doing that sort of work to help those that can't do as much for themselves.
Well, a lot of people ask why you do it, and you just enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to see that somebody can afford a wheelchair now, or somebody.
And what a
can
huge
afford to
difference
have
that
their
makes.
teeth fixed.
Having a wheelchair makes a huge difference in someone's life
Yes.
that couldn't otherwise afford it.
And we get
And
a lot
food at the food bank, and
we get a lot of local people who have children or grandchildren that need help. We certainly the press takes a lot of pictures on the big checks, but they don't look at the smaller ones, that the service clubs and not just our service club, but all the service clubs. Yeah, and again with the church too. It'd be nice to see more young people in the church, as it would be to see more young people in the service clubs.
A lot of the physical improvements, like the ceiling in the church and stuff, all those things you've had a lot to do with, Bobby, and the furnace and everything else.
I
Yeah.
can't say that I had a lot to do with it. I
He's
was
too
there.
modest.
And helped. It's interesting. We've got a couple of pictures here of the library too. That the library at one time was right beside the lift bridge, and where the library is now was the fire department. And when they built the new library, or tore down the fire department and added on to I guess the fire department was part of the municipal building in Port Stanley. And when they tore down the fire department and then made that all one building and moved the library into there, the window that was in the old library was transferred, and that was the one item that had to be transferred into the new library. So when you walk into the theater through the front doors, the theater, right to your right is the library, and that the window is
And
St. George.
what was the original? How did that original window come into being? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
But
it was.
I think there's a plaque on it about the remembering those in the war, but I'm not sure. I know the old building they had to get out of that library because my wife taught the kids in the children's program downstairs, and there was only one exit that was up the stairs. So obviously it was a hazard, but so they certainly made a nice library. But I'm not sure why that window was put in originally, but I'm pretty sure there's a plaque on there.
It's very nice that they saved it and put it into the new build. kept the memory of it.
Yeah, yeah, and into the new building.
So, Bob, through your dad, the Nemett name's been pretty famous in Port Stanley too. He served as Reeve. Do you have some memories from that time?
I don't have a lot. I guess at that point, I wasn't interested in politics. I know that every spring when the first ship came in, Dad would be there, and they would trade hats. He had a top hat that the captain would put on, and Dad would put on the captain's hat. And of course, the press was always there for a picture, and that of course happened every year. All the functions, the calypso, and so on, always involved in that. There is a picture here, though, of him with a shovel over his shoulder when they were putting shovels in the ground for the Extendicare building. He was also involved in the villa at the start of that as well. But yeah, a lot of things have changed in Port Stanley.
What got him into politics?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's also a picture here someplace of women. I was in Chestnut Grove School, and we had a Christmas concert every year. And he would be the MC that would welcome everyone. And the picture shows him standing in front of everyone, talking to them like this. So I don't know whether he just got so he enjoyed politics, or whether I think more of it is that he wanted to see change in Port Stanley and it wasn't happening. And it's kind of like that in service clubs too. You get someone that comes in and says, we're stagnating, we're not making changes. And I think that was his feeling. And I think if you look at the information that comes out of the newspaper, the old ads where he was running for Reeve, if you look at what his platform was, it was better roads, better sewage, better water, and
He wanted to make it. He wanted to make a change, and he had some vision as how that change could happen.
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
And he actually made the effort to make it happen.
Well,
A lot of people have ideas, but
sometimes you get to a point where you look around and nobody else is doing anything, and think, well, somebody has to make the push, and sometimes people don't like that. And as we've seen, even in the church, the changes have to be made, and a lot of people are happy with status quo and they don't want to spend the money. But once it's done, all of a sudden, wow, it's like construction. Complain about the streets and the way it is, and you have to make all the detours. But when it's done, you say, boy, is this ever nice now? Same thing.
Bob, you were saying about how Port Stanley's changed over the years. So what kind of changes?
I keep saying to my wife when we come out of Port Stanley, especially if we go up East Road, my parents would never recognize Port Stanley. Never recognize it. And that was, my mother's been gone for 25 years. Would never recognize it. It's just,
are you speaking about the fire hall, the new fire hall?
everything, the building, the fire hall,
subdivision,
the theater, the golf course, our Lions clubs, the Lions and Lioness, and way back it was called Lioness, and then they became Lioness. And we always went out to Mars Farm to build our floats, and we had corn roasts out there. They had a great big kettle hanging from a tree in behind their house, and a big fire under it. And Dr. John Hoffus was in our club at that time. A lot of changes in Port Stanley, and I guess most of them are for the better. Look at the new restaurant along the harbor, Riva. It amazes me though that so many people come to Port Stanley and they say, what a beautiful little community. Oh, it's so nice. We should move here. And they do. move there. And then the first thing they say is, let's make a change. I had one person say to me, they couldn't stand the smell down there from the asphalt plant. They should get rid of that asphalt plant. It's a mess. And I said, well, do you know how much they pay in taxes? And if they're not here, guess who's going to pay those taxes? And they don't realize it. Not everybody's the same way, certainly. But, yeah, it's we love it. No change.
You like to see the changes. And
Yeah. When I was chair down there at one time of community association, and Sue and I had gone to Kennebunkport, Maine, took the kids down there, and I was impressed because there were no cars on the street. They had trolleys. They had a Molly, a Polly, and a Dolly trolley. And you parked outside the village, and you paid your fee, and you got on, you got off the trolleys at no charge. And one would take you from the parking lot downtown. One would take you from downtown to the beach. One would bring you back. And I thought, man, you got the Shamrock Chemical property that they can't do anything with. Pave it over, do the same thing. And I pushed that through the Chamber of Commerce for a number of years. But now everybody complains about the traffic in Port Stanley. Well, maybe someday, but it's a thought.
this could be a
So
real
there's
bottleneck
always
in
room
the
for
summer.
change. Yeah. There's, maybe some of that property that's used as parking lots could be built with something else, and put the parking outside. And I see people parking way up by the drugstore, and they get their wagons and their kids and their loads, and they walk all the way to the beach because they don't want to park, or there's no parking. And that's got to be tough. Sad to see the Start Club gone, mind you, but
Do you remember?
progress. And,
Do you remember when that happened? There was a fire at the store.
yes. When my parents first went to Port Stanley, they bought 3 cottages in a row that were not too far from the Start Club, and ran down to the beach. And they lived in one of the cottages. And then Dad bought a place at the end of Edith Cavell Boulevard, across from where the pumping station was. If you went down Edith Cavell and you had to make the turn and come back, to the right-hand side up against the hill was a house. And Sue and I lived there for a number of years. And we remember when the Start Club burned. And that was pretty sad. And especially with all the memorabilia that was in there from all the artists that played, all signed posters and autographs. And unfortunately, and did we like seeing all the condos go up there? Probably not, but now you're used to it, and things change. It'll never be the same. Same thing with the incline railway. Some things should maybe stay.
So do you remember the demise of the railway? Did it rot up and fall apart, or did they just come in and decide they didn't need it anymore?
Well, there was no reason to go down to the beach with the train because everybody had a car at that point. As far as the incline railway, it was operating, I guess, sporadically when we moved to Port, but it didn't last very long. There was a hospital at the base of the incline railway. They called it a hospital. It was, I think it was a cottage probably at one time, and I can remember that when you go down there on a nice day, the nurse would be sitting in a chair on the porch, just in case anybody came in off the beach that needed emergency care. But they called it a hospital. It really wasn't, but yeah.
It was something.
Yeah, it was just at the base of the incline railway.
That's all you got in Port Stanley at that point.
Yeah. Yes.
That's pretty good.
And there was a bowling alley. I think it was a 2-lane or a 3-lane bowling alley at that same spot.
Okay.
Right across from the Start Club. Do you remember that? No?
I don't. I remember the incline railway, but I don't
Yeah,
remember the
yeah.
Willing Hill.
It didn't last for a long time. Finally, the chap that had it gave up, and it wound up being torn down. And I can remember our Lions Club went in and laid sod in there to just make a little park area. And because I can remember the guys coming out, it was in the middle of the summer, and we were just covered in dirt from laying the sod. But again, it was the Lions Club. Yeah.
And the incline railway, like there used to be lots of picnics and stuff up at the top of the hill before those condos were there.
Yes, it was. That's why they call it Picnic Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were a lot of, I guess, company picnics there, and I don't remember an awful lot about that. I know that there was one house up there that the people that took over the Store Club from my father lived in, and their name was Caravasilis, and I'm not sure what nationality they were. It's funny how you can remember that name because they made a trip to the Holy Land, and so they could change their name, and they changed it to Hajamahalis. And I don't know why I remember those two names, Caravasilis and Hajamahalis. But they took over from my dad, and shortly after that, the Store Club burned.
Well, nice for your dad. He wasn't responsible for it in those days,
he
eh?
was,
Yeah.
He was out of that at that point. But interesting times down there. As I say, I didn't grow up in Port Stanley, but I spent a lot of time.
And even though you're living in St. Thomas now, I'd almost say Port Stanley is still the center of your life with all your activities there.
Well, it's funny because Sue came from Chatham, and then they moved to London, and her father found the job down there for her, teaching school. She taught grade 2, and anyway, when she went down there, and we got together. We moved we stayed in Port Stanley for a few years, and then we moved to Union, and we were there for 45 years. And at that point, I said to my wife, when we moved to Union, we should join the United Church in Union because we were members of the Port Stanley Church. And I said, it's only fair that we're in Union, we should join that. We were there for 20 years at that church, and although the people are all very nice and they were neighbors and everything, there seemed to be cliques, and we never really felt part of it. So we went back to Port Stanley and walked in like we never left. So people gave us hugs, and it was we just felt right at home, like we'd always been there. So something about the village, maybe, I don't know, and the people in it, don't know what it is. Maybe because it's at the end of the highway, and and everybody gets together and
I think we all agree
associates more
it's a wonderful village and friendly people.
As I say, we were in Union for 45 years. Our next door neighbor, although we knew them well, we were never invited into their house. They always were at our place at Christmas or for a barbecue in the summer. But people in the country just, I grew up in the country, but maybe it's too far in between, and they don't get together as much as people in a village. I don't know. Interesting. And why did we move here? Our place in Union was getting to the point where it was a lot of work, and I knew that if anything happened to me, my wife wouldn't be able to look after it. So we did some planning and built a house here 10 years ago. And one of our sons is here with his family. Hospital's closed, son's a pharmacist, so, yeah. And we're in a cul-de-sac, and it's almost like a little community. There's always sitting in somebody's driveway having a glass of wine, or on their deck, the 3 or 4 times a year. Sometimes it gets to be too much. You get together and have appetizers at one house, and a meal at another house, and a dessert at another house. But it's good.
Well, Bob, it's been a very engaging conversation. Anything else you want to tell us about Port Stanley?
Not really. Yeah. Would I move back to Port Stanley? I don't think I could afford it now. But a lot of people say, "Why you're down here almost every day?" I say, yeah, we notice that. Check that in the gas gauge of the car. Sometimes 2 times a day or 3 times a day. But no, it's a good spot here. Things change as you age. Your priorities change. But as far as the service clubs, Sue is still in the Lioness Club and will always be in the Lioness Club, and same thing with me. And it's nice to see the Leo clubs thriving. And,
Thank you, Bob, for everything that you've done for the village and people in this interview. Really appreciate it.
thank you.